Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the BFA class review series. My name is Mr. Couchy, and I will lay out for you some of the changes affecting Affliction Warlocks heading into battle for Azeroth. Although we are close to the end of beta and into the pre-patch, some of this is still subject to change, so don't take everything said here as law. Afflocks had a pretty great time in Legion. Strong damage output in almost any scenario, see Coven logs for example. Stupid self-sustain healing from Drained Soul allowed them to be virtually unkillable in raids or dungeons. Their vast array of utility from their pets gave them access to a ranged interrupt, a charm effect, and a talentable AoE stun. Pack skipping with portal and health stones round out the Warlock into a force that reigned. What can we expect heading into BFA? Let's start by going over the Warlock general spec changes, as quite a few are just being tweaked across the class. Summon Doomguard and Unending Breath have been removed. Create Healthstone, Soulwell, Demonic Gateway, Enslaved Demon, Fear, and Ritual of Summoning all had mana reduced or cast time changes. I mostly left these in here to show you that their utility is still insanely strong and not going anywhere. Your Battle Res and Soulstone has been reduced to 60% health and 20% mana. You have gained Shadow Fury baseline that stuns all enemies within 8 yards for 3 seconds, and the range has been changed from 30 yards to 35 yards, and the cooldown changed from 30 seconds to a minute. An old version of Demonic Circle, Grimoire of Service, and Shadow's Bite have been removed, and in their places baseline you get Summon Dark Glare, which summons a Dark Glare that extends the duration of your damage over time effects on all enemies by 8 seconds. The Dark Glare will serve you for 20 seconds, blasting its target for shadow damage, increased by 10% for every dot effect you have active on any target. Your Mastery, Potent Afflictions, increases the damage done by Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, Phantom Singularity, Vile Taint, and Unstable Affliction by a certain percent. We'll cover some of those extra spell abilities in a little bit. Shadow Bolt replaces Drained Soul as your shard generator and sends a shadowy bolt at the enemy, dealing shadow damage. The cost has been changed from 6% to 2% base mana. And finally, Unstable Affliction. You afflict the target with shadow damage over 8 seconds. You may afflict a target with up to 5 at once. You deal 10% increased damage to targets affected by your Unstable Affliction, and if dispelled, deals damage to the Dispeller and silences them for 4 seconds. It also refunds 1 soul shard if the target dies while affected. So that's it for your base changes to your spec and Affliction in general. Let's check out how your talents changed. Contagion, Death's Embrace, Empowered Life Tap, Grimoire of Service, Howl of Terror, Malefic Grasp, and Soul Harvest have all been removed. In their places you receive Creeping Death. Your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. Nightfall, Corruption damage has a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt to be instant and deal 25% increased damage. Dark Soul Misery, you infuse your soul with the misery of fallen foes, increasing haste by 30% for 20 seconds. Death Bolt, you launch a bolt of death at the target, dealing 40% of the total remaining damage of your dots on the target. Dark Fury reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fury by 15 seconds. Your new Demonic Circle, you summon a Demonic Circle for 15 minutes, and you cast Demonic Circle Teleport to teleport to its location and remove all movement impairing and slowing effects. Dark Pact, you sacrifice 20% of your current health to shield you for 250% of the sacked health for 20 seconds, and it's usable while suffering from control impairing effects. Demon Skin, your Soul Leech Absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 0.5% of max health every second, and may now absorb up to 15% of max health. Soul Conduit, every soul shard you spend is a 15% chance to be refunded. Shadow Embrace, Drained Soul, Shadow Bolt, applies Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Vile Taint, you unleash a Vile Explosion at the target location, dealing shadow damage over 10 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards, and reducing their movement speed by 30%. Absolute Corruption has been changed a little bit. It's now permanent and deals 15% increased damage, and the duration reduced to 24 seconds against players. Drain Soul, you drain the target's soul, causing shadow damage over 5 seconds. The damage is increased by 100% against enemies below 20%, and generates 1 soul shard if the target dies during this effect. Grimoire of Sacrifice, you sacrifice your demon pet for power, gaining its command demon ability and causing your spells to sometimes also deal additional shadow damage. It lasts an hour or until a summoned demon pet. Haunt, a ghostly soul haunts the target, dealing shadow damage and increasing your damage dealt to the target by 10% for 15 seconds. If the target dies, Haunt's cooldown is reset. Siphon Life, you siphon the target's life essence, dealing shadow damage over 15 seconds, and healing you for 30% of the damage done. And finally, Sow the Seeds. A Seed of Corruption now embeds a demon seed into 1 additional nearby enemy. The addition of Nightfall and the changes to Haunt and Shadowbolt are all great and allow the spec a little more dynamism instead of the dot drain style that existed in Legion. Some element of randomness is always welcome when you can set the class to your watch. Affliction is definitely still useful in any multi-target or ad cleave fights, and because of their utility, are invaluable to a raid starting on time with Lock Portal. How did you think Affliction felt like in Legion, and how do you think it will perform in BFA? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for sticking around, like and subscribe, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.